Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon and I are in Las Vegas, and we are going to record a podcast breaking down everything that we have seen from the NBA offseason since we last podcasted on Sunday. In addition, we'll give some early thoughts on Summer League as well. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? Hope you're doing well. Got a good start here in Vegas yesterday.
Not doing well.
Meal. Oh, okay.
Doing well.
Listen,
it's not even like I went out like last night, but didn't really go out. Like I had a couple of beers and over 6 hours, you know what I mean? So there was never even a point where I was tipsy even. And I just got to bed at 12 o'clock or so. But my body clock is so broken from coming over here from Australia that I've been up since 3:30 a.m. and haven't been able to do anything about it. So not doing great, but we'll make it work here on the show.
Yeah, that's what I was in a group message yesterday. Somebody said something about they had been in Vegas for 6 hours and we're doing this, and this. And it's I've been in Vegas for 4 hours and I'm ready to go back home to Kansas. This is culture shock. I remember the first year I came here, we stayed at MGM and you have to walk through the casino to get to your rooms. And I was a little skittish. I was like a little baby deer. I was I want to go to my room. I want to hole up in there. I need to this is overstimulation way too much. And so I needed to get out of it. I've gotten used to it by now, but I am with you as well. I got a text from somebody this morning. I'm gonna have lunch with them after this. And it was 4 a.m. and they're like, hey, I'm still on East Coast time, so I'm awake right now. Do you want to go get lunch later today?
Yeah.
So it's just amazing because it's this influx of different. I started yesterday, Sam, in Central Time Zone. I drove to Mountain Time Zone to fly to Vegas and then flew into Pacific Time Zone. So, listen, you flew over 12 time zones, but we did a little bit of that as well yesterday.
I always forget that you have to literally drive 5 hours to the airport. That is just genuinely ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Find a new home, Bryce.
No, you're right. We hit road construction twice in the first 60 miles of the drive too. So then we're behind. Randy at one point is hey, I really have to go to the restroom. And I'm listen, we can't stop. We are late getting to the airport right now because the Denver airport can be, something in terms of security. So, she had to hold it a little bit. So she was not a fan of me yesterday.
Oh my God. That's so funny. That's genuinely very funny. Okay, Bryce. We're going to talk about what's happened in the NBA offseason. I think that the biggest move that has occurred, there are probably the maxes that we'll talk about in a minute are probably a little bit more momentous than this one. But in terms of just a trade that has occurred that was somewhat surprising to me, although I do find it interesting in terms of what it could mean for some further dominoes down the road. The LA Clippers, Miami Heat, and Utah Jazz came to a 3-team deal with Norman Powell going to the Miami Heat, John Collins going to the LA Clippers, Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a second-round pick going to the Utah Jazz. What was your immediate reaction when you saw this?
Yeah, so my first thing was we had talked a little bit about this with Bradley Beal, right? And I know Bradley Beal isn't involved in this trade, obviously, but we talked about if Bradley Beal gets bought out, that LA Clippers would be an interesting team. And if they were a team for him, then what would that mean for Norm Powell? And so to me, obviously we don't know at time of recording whether that's going to happen or not, but if it does, it makes a lot of sense. And then you essentially trade out the position of Norm Powell for the position of John Collins, which when I looked at the Clippers roster, Sam, so if we just start out the Clippers, I was this isn't an archetype they have right at the 4, especially with Kawhi's injury stuff. So I found myself a little more interested in it for the Clippers than I thought I was when it originally came out, and he can play a little bit of small ball 5 if they really want to change it up. So if they end up with Brad Beal, I think I like this for the Clippers. Am I crazy for that?
No, I actually agree, but I do think that it is somewhat contingent for me on them getting Beal. Like, I do feel that way. Like, I think that for this to make sense for the Clippers, it probably does have to end with them getting Beal, if only because Norm Powell is a really valuable player. I mean, last year, I guess 6 months ago, we were talking about Norman Powell as a borderline all-star, right? Like, he had a phenomenal scoring season. He averaged 21.8 points, 3.2 rebounds, 2.1 assists, shot 48, 42, 80 from the field. And kind of, over the last couple of years, he's been like one of the best sixth men in the NBA, but he kind of went beyond and expanded past that sixth man role last year and became just a truly valuable, creative, high-level scorer. And immediately what my first reaction to this was, outside of Beal, though, was this is just another example of the NBA continuing to devalue these score-only guards. Basically, you can be as efficient as Norman Powell is, averaging 21 points on, 48, 42, 80, and be a ridiculously high level scorer who can create some rim pressure here and there. He knocks down threes off the catch. Like, he is a real player in this mold, and teams just don't see a ton of value in it at the end of the day. And the key with this is that Norman Powell was extension eligible, and he was coming up on a deal where they were going to have to decide whether they basically want to shit or get off the pot with Norman Powell, especially as he entered his age 32 season this year. You'd be extending him for his age 33 season. I just don't think that Powell had quite as much value as what maybe the numbers in terms of what he accomplished last year would indicate, because of that potential for him to get extended at the end of the day. So I look at this, and they do need somebody in this mold. Like, they can't just go into this season with their current roster. I think they need another scoring guard pretty desperately, but the NBA has proven to us time and again that it thinks that it can find guys like this. And with Bradley Beal hitting the market, a guy that, seems like he wants to be in warm weather, seems like he probably wants a competitive situation. I kind of think that if they traded Bradley Beal and John Collins for Norman Powell, it's a huge win. But if it ends up being a little bit more complicated than that and Bradley Beal goes somewhere else, I do think they're probably not a better team. So this deal, like, grading this for the Clippers is almost incomplete to me until we know what Bradley Beal is going to do.
I agree with that 100%. If they don't end up with Bradley Beal, and we don't need to go through the Bradley Beal numbers, I don't think. We have done that on other podcasts multiple times, talking about how efficient of a scorer he was and effective of a scorer he was, even though he was severely overpaid. In the scenario he would be on the LA Clippers, he would be properly paid, maybe underpaid, quite honestly, for the production he's probably going to give.
From them, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, and so like you outlined it perfectly. If this ends up being essentially John Collins and Bradley Beal for Norm Powell, I'm okay with that for the Clippers. If they don't get Bradley Beal and then it's like, oh, we have to go overpay to get somebody else or something like that, you have to make a move, a trade or something, that gets a little bit more problematic. So in general, working under the assumption right now that Bradley Beal does end up there, and again, that obviously I don't have intel on that or reporting it, but seeing that, kind of connecting the dots, I like that from their perspective. The one I think is interesting, Sam, is Miami, because I saw everybody like, this is a home run, A++ for Miami, and value-wise, I don't disagree, but the backcourt combination of Norm Powell and Tyler Hero is fascinating to me in regards to, like, how is that gonna work, and specifically on the defensive end with those two guys.
I mean, I don't think it works defensively, just point blank, but it gives them like just real scoring punch that they kind of desperately lacked, right? Like, if you look at what, Miami needed this year, they were 21st in offensive rating, right? Like, they need another shot maker. They need somebody who can come in and knock down, catch and shoot threes and consistently get some paint touches and rim pressure, right? Like, this is a team that likes to generate threes off of different actions and different movement, right? Having Norm Powell there should actually be like pretty beneficial for them. I think Spo will figure out a way to like be able to get him involved in the offense, I think, in fun ways with different actions to be able to get him loose off the ball before he's then able to either drive and use the advantages that he's able to create with his athleticism that way, or use the gravity of his shot that way to be able to create open opportunities and free access looks and things like that. But I do worry about the defense. Like, is this just like us believing that Spo is going to be able to figure this out in some way? Like, is that like generally what our thought is? I would guess. I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. I'd be interested to kind of hear your take on this. I'm thinking he comes off the bench again. Like, I'm guessing that they start Davion Mitchell with Tyler Hero, or at least that's what I would do. Still, it's not to say Davion's a better player than Norman Powell by any stretch, but Davion was really good at the close of last year, and he is a monster on-ball defender in the way that they kind of need next to Tyler Hero. So I like the idea of them, just moving Norm Powell back to that sixth man role and having that scoring punch. And maybe you close with Norm, maybe you kind of figure out different scenarios and depending on how the game goes every single night. But I think this does fill a real need for them as a scoring guard and giving them more scoring depth, really.
That's interesting because then essentially he's taking the Duncan Robinson role, right? Like they lose Duncan Robinson to Detroit in the sign and trade. And so now he's a better all around scorer than Duncan Robinson, right? And he can do similar things in terms of off the ball movement, off screens, all of that. Not quite the shooter that Duncan Robinson is in terms of volume and all of that, but just all around scoring ability and able to go get 20 on a given night. He is an upgrade in regards to that. So that's interesting because I think I initially penciled in Norm, Hero, Wiggins, Bam, Khalil, and starting Davion Mitchell, especially with the contract they gave him, it does kind of balance your rotations a little bit better in terms of, I have Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, and Bam Adebayo defensively in that starting lineup. I can start games with that defensively. I can live with that defensively. And I'm sure Heat fans are going to scream at me. I think Ware has a room to grow a lot defensively. He does protect the rim in some ways in terms of just his length and athleticism.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think he's like pretty insulated there, in all honesty.
Correct. He can just do that role, right? Like he doesn't have to be the anchor. And then you can strategically make rotation substitutions. Okay, now how much can we play? If we play Norm and Hero together, maybe we get three really good defenders alongside them. And, Norm's not a worse defender than Duncan Robinson, right? Like, I think we would both agree on. Yeah. So, I mean, in regards to that, this is a major upgrade, off the bench. So I don't know, now that we've talked through this a little bit and I don't look at him as this like starter next to Hero, I'm kind of, and the value was awesome regardless, right? Like what they gave up to get him, even if it's just for a year, is perfectly reasonable. It just was like kind of how much does it raise the ceiling? How much does it fit with the roster? Him coming off the bench, kind of interesting to me.
Yeah. And look, like here's the other piece of this that's interesting is like Terry Rozier is still theoretically on this roster. It seems like he's going to play next year. Like he's been cleared of the whole thing. So of the whole like probe into like gambling, suspicious activity thing. So like, I feel like they're probably going to try and move him would be my read based off of all of this. Like he has 1 year left. This is like a partial guarantee year. Who knows what they're going to try and do, but like it's a wonky fit there. Like, Rozier, Hero, and Powell don't really work together, but I'm intrigued to kind of see what Powell and what Spo and these guys can do to kind of create like more balanced lineups. I think that they're going to be okay to be able to do so because you can go smaller. Like you can go Davion, Hero, Powell, Wiggins, Bam, like to close games if you want to potentially. You can go way bigger. Like you can go Hero, Powell, like Wiggins, Jovic, Bam, or like Powell, Jovic, Hawkes, Ware, and Haywood Highsmith or something like that, right? And like Haywood Highsmith is still like a monster defender, right? So I don't know. Like I kind of look at this Heat roster and I think they might have a stew going here, man. Like they might have something a little bit. I think this might be like a top 6 team, Bryce.
Yeah, I have a little bit of question. Are you worried at all about the front court? You know, just in terms of like, you have Bam and you have Ware. Like, do you need another 4-5 type of player? Like, I know Wiggins can scale down and play the 4 a little bit. Fontecchio can play the 4 a little bit. You know, Jovic do you need another kind of third big-ish? Like, this reminds me of how I feel about Cleveland, right? Like, I realize that Evan Mobley is your backup to Jarrett Allen, but I still want another kind of center on the roster outside of those two guys. Do you see that hole in the roster at all, or am I overthinking that a little bit?
I mean, I think I would like to see them like maybe get like a deep backup big. Honestly, like they could go get, I mean, like Chris Boucher is a little bit more than that. But like if they could go get like a Trey Lyles or something, like I think that'd be helpful for them. But I don't know. Like I think Jovic can kind of scale up. I think that, Wiggins playing at the 4 like generally works. So I think they have like a few more options than that. And plus both Bam and Ware can play the 5 pretty consistently if they want to. I don't know. Like I'm a little bit more in on the Heat now after this deal. Like, yes, it's a little bit funky and wonky, but like I think Spo can figure out, funky and wonky lineups at the end of the day and kind of make them work. The side of this deal that I'm genuinely like more interested in is like, okay, the Clippers now, Ty Lue like doesn't really love playing these bigger dudes or these smaller dudes at the 5, right? So like John Collins, I would guess they envision him as a 4 for the most part. And you have already signed Brook Lopez. You obviously have Zubats, who's a stud. How do you like the Collins fit with Zubats and Lopez? Because I love the idea of him with Brook Lopez. You just like put Lopez in the corner. You have John Collins be like the rim runner with James Harden led bench lineups. Like those lineups could be really fun and could like really ball out. I think the Zubats fit is like a little bit more particular, I guess I would say, because he's like, you're then not involving Collins in ball screens. You're probably having him be like in the corner spacing or up on the wing spacing or, in the dunker spot. Like you can do things that are different with Collins. Like he's a little bit more of a flexible piece than I think he gets credit for, but he's always at his best in screens where he can pick and pop or get downhill and rim run, as we saw for many years with Trae Young. And even, to an extent saw this year in Utah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like it more with Brook. I think that would be a lot of fun with those two guys where, okay, Brook, you just space to the corner and we're going to let John pick and roll and catch lobs and all of that. But I do think like Ivica's so good in the short roll that I still think it's going to be okay. Like I think Collins knocking down shots out of the corner. I don't know what the specific corner threes are.
Running baseline too.
Yes.
Actually.
It's
a good ball.
It was one thing I thought the NBA teams outsmarted themselves a little bit in the playoffs, where at times when they weren't, like, they were training like 4 true perimeter players. I talked about this with the Thunder. I was like, I felt like at times the Thunder needed the dunker spot threat. Like they needed the guy in the dunker spot that wasn't Alex Caruso. Like I love Caruso, but how big of a threat is he there in terms of catching the lobs and being super high efficient with that? Collins, he's so athletic, Sam. It doesn't even have to be the dunker spot. He can start in the corner and then cut all the way from the corner. So he keeps the spacing, but can also be that play finisher on the baseline, that offensive rebounder. So I think those minutes are going to be okay. And what I like is it's a little bit of insurance for Kawhi, right? Like the starting lineup is still probably Kawhi at the 4 and Collins coming off the bench, but Kawhi's going to miss 20 or 30 games. We know this. So now you get John Collins to start those 20 or 30 games. That's a huge upgrade over what they are. Like they continue to build really nice depth with this team. And again, I want to caveat being that Bradley Beal ends up on this roster.
Yeah, and like I don't think there's any assurance that Beal's going to end up on the roster for what it's worth.
Correct.
I actually do like this more for the Clippers than what I think others do, because if you do end up getting Beal, or just generally, it's easier to find scoring guards than it is to find like a 6'10", play finisher like John Collins, basically. I think that I would rather kind of take the bet, I guess, on being able to find that scoring guard, given how devalued those guys are league wide right now. Like, I think that you can just go out and find that player. Like, what if Miami ends up having to literally just like buy out Terry Rozier, and then you're replacing Norman Powell and for Rozier and Collins, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just like kind of spitballing when I say that, but there are always going to be like these players that get bought out. And I think it's a little bit more likely that a scoring guard would get bought out. In Bradley Beal's case, has already been bought out, as opposed to somebody that is as dynamic and athletic as John Collins. So I think as long as they can fill that, look, obviously it's an incomplete grade, like I said at the top, but as long as they can fill that kind of role where it's Collins being able to be the, dynamic play finisher that he is, and they still are able to find that scoring guard, I think that's the key. That's where this becomes like a huge win for the Clippers if they can fill that scoring guard role.
Yeah, they're absolutely going to have to in some way. And I'm glad you said it. Like, we don't know. Like, it's not a guarantee that Bradley Beal ends up there. There's definitely a hole. Like, whenever you look at the rotation, the potential starting lineup, stuff like that, because I do like the idea of that scoring guard, whether it's Bradley Beal or whoever, with Harden, with Kawhi, with Chris Dunn, and then Zubac, and then now you have this plethora of guys off the bench with Collins, Bogdanovich, Derrick Jones Jr., Lopez, Batum. Like, that is really, really interesting as long as they kind of fill in that scoring guard in the starting lineup, because you have all of these defenders. Like, we know this is a team that can really defend, and so you can insulate those guys in a real way.
Yeah, and I guess that where we'll close this is on Utah, right? The Jazz are in an intriguing position. Let's go with. They essentially had these 3 expiring deals in Colin Sexton, John Collins, Jordan Clarkson, where like they got like a net 0 assets from those 3 guys because they gave up a second to move Sexton for Yusuf Nurkic and then acquired a second in this deal. And they brought back basically Yusuf Nurkic, Kyle Anderson, and Kevin Love. It seems like they're going to buy out Kevin Love. I get just kind of wanting to get off of your guys and maybe like take care of them a little bit, toss Collins to a contender, Colin Sexton to a place where he's going to be able to hopefully score and get some, counting stats going into free agency. Let Jordan Clarkson find a place where he can go and, be a great bench player, hopefully in New York. It does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity on some level for me. It's hard because it's not like they didn't have, it's not like they haven't like, it's not like these guys had real value prior to this offseason, right? I just wonder if maybe you take these guys into the season, maybe you take Collins into the season, particularly because he's still actually like pretty valuable, and kind of see what you could get. Like, I wonder if you could get more for Collins than what you got here, maybe, is kind of my question.
Yeah, it is interesting, like the process and the decision-making behind it. If there wasn't any market and value for them leading up to this point, isn't the potential for the best place for that to happen at the deadline this year, where like they're true expiring deals at the deadline where, oh no, like somebody got hurt. John Collins is truly a missing, like somebody's really going to give up 2 second-round picks, right, for John Collins at the deadline because he's playing well, he's on an expiring deal, and our starting 4-man got hurt, or our backup 5, we want to play small ball 5, and he can come in and do that for us in our system, there's just so many of those scenarios that could play out. I'm not saying for all 3, Sam, right? Like, I think that would be a little aggressive to think it was going to happen for all 3. I just feel like with where you were at, specifically with Sexton and Collins, for me, I would have brought them into the year. Even with all of these young guys, I would have brought those guys into the year, let them play. We talk about this all the time with these rebuilding teams. We're about to talk about it with another one that I thought was an interesting decision with Kelly Olynyk and the Wizards. But bring those guys in, let them play till the deadline. You're probably trying to lose after the deadline anyway. So maybe, like, what's the worst case scenario? You keep them through the deadline, don't play them, and then they just become, they just, like you said, it was a net, there was no gain anyway. It was a 0. And so I don't love the process here unless it was just truly doing right by these guys, right? Like you get John Collins on a contender, I guess Sexton, you didn't get on a contender, but maybe he's happy there in Charlotte with that. So I don't know. It seemed like there could have been a better path since you had held on to them this long anyway.
Well, and again, like the point I want to emphasize here as we kind of close this section up is just like, it's a pure devaluation of these scoring guards league wide, these smaller scoring guards right now. Colin Sexton, like they literally have to give up a pick to get off of him to take Yusuf Nurkic, right? Norman Powell does not have quite as much value as what is anticipated. It feels like teams are not wildly excited about paying these guys $20 million plus right now. And speaking to Miami now, they have Tyler Hero with his extension coming up potentially within the next year or so. And they have, Norman Powell with like an extension opportunity at some point in 6 months, right? I'll be interested to see how Miami handles that, right? Like, is this them kind of exploiting a marginal inefficiency where the rest of the league like doesn't really value these guys? So we're going to go and we're going to get our scoring, punch that we pretty desperately need. Or is it a circumstance where, they're just going to kind of let this ride and they don't see these guys as all that valuable long-term and they're going to kind of go from there. But that is honestly like a massive story for me this summer so far from what we've seen. The fact that these guys who are like scoring guards basically only just continue to really not get any sort of contract value whatsoever, or like any sort of market value in trades either whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be an interesting trend to watch. And I think these are the hardest archetypes. I mean, as a draft analyst and somebody that does scouting, you know this as well. They're the ones I struggle with the most because it's like, if you don't hit your high-end outcome as a number 2 option, right? Or a number 3 option, then what are you? What is your role? And okay, well now you're a 6th man. Well, when do you draft a 6th man in the NBA draft, right? Like, is that a lot? You spend a lottery pick on a guy that you think is probably a 6th man? I say this all the time about Jay Nivey, Sam. If he ends up being a 6th man, like how many of those guys were taken in the top 5 and then become a 6th man on the team that drafted them, right? Like how often does it work out that way? So it's just a very interesting archetype in our world right now of how are they valued? What is their role? How much do you pay them? And how many are available, right? Like supply and demand. This is why the stretch big rim protector is so valuable because there's not a lot of those on planet Earth. It seems like there's a few more of these bucket getting off ball guard wings who aren't great on the defensive end. Now, if you can guard, that's a completely different conversation, right? Like if you can get 18 to 22 and defend, that's a completely different archetype than what we're talking about. So it will be interesting to see how these guys, like you said, are valued, what kind of extensions they get. If teams just kind of play like, hey, we can get one when we need it. And so we're not going to give long-term contracts to them. Yeah.
Like, is it the running back position in the
Correct.
NFL?
Right.
Like, is that where this is going with scoring guards? I honestly kind of think it might be truly like where people just think there are enough of these guys out there who can achieve this role. And thus, they don't think they need to pay them. So,
and you have to be Saquon Barkley if you want to get paid, Sam. If you want to get paid, you better be the elite of the
Donovan Mitchell.
Yes, that's right.
That's right. Like Donovan Mitchell is the Saquon Barkley of this like entire conversation, right? So yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Okay, let's go to Kelly Olynyk going to the San Antonio Spurs. The twin Caucasian towers are in place in San Antonio. Luke Cornett and Kelly Olynyk are combined now. Kelly Olynyk is going to the Spurs for Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, and a 2026 second rounder. Totally fine move for me. I don't know that I have like a ton of really strong hot takes on this entire thing. He's a good player offensively who can give you real minutes. I get what Washington's doing here. They're clearly like trying to take a flyer on as many of these interesting reclamation projects as possible. I personally haven't really seen much from Branham or Blake Wesley to really make me believe in them as like interesting reclamation projects. I also felt that way about Dylan Jones with the Washington Wizards as well. I will at least note that like these guys do have like singular skills on some level. Like Blake Wesley has done some interesting things defensively, I think, actually on the ball. Like he can get pretty aggressive and like get into your shit in a way that's pretty interesting. and Branham can obviously really shoot the ball as well. So I get what they're going for. It's just probably, I think I'd rather just have Olynyk as the developmental big man with Alex Sarr that kind of allows you to continue to play the way you want to play offensively when Sarr is off the court, with some of your other younger wings where we've talked about with Washington, like they just have a million of these young wings between, Trey Johnson, Bilal Coulibaly, Bub Carrington's obviously a point guard, but now you have Cam Whitmore, Will Riley, AJ Johnson, Keyshawn George. Like, I think that Kelly Olynyk probably could have helped those guys develop a little bit more maybe than, what burying Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley on the bench is going to do.
I'm listen, I'm not going to crush a Kelly Olynyk trade in terms of the Wizards. I really like what the Wizards have done, but I don't love this for Washington. I love the idea of KO there. We've talked about kind of the veteran presence, and you just named like how many young guys on that roster, Sam. Like, I feel like you just rattled off 10 names. How are you going to develop all of those guys and give them real substantial playing time to develop and grow in this league? Yeah. Even when they're not trying to win necessarily, it's still like, how are you going to give them the minutes? And then if you are giving them the minutes, if you're giving all 10 of those guys the minutes, then you're not getting Chris Middleton on the floor or CJ McCollum on the floor to play with them. So I did like the idea of KO. I just would have kept Kelly Olynyk if this was the return. I'm not going to crush it, but I didn't love this. This was one of the first Wizards moves this offseason that I wasn't a fan of. Listen, they still got a second round pick. That's fine. But I like the idea of Olynyk with the Wizards there. We've talked about why, floor spacing, all of that. Veterans. For San Antonio, I like it a lot. Like, bring in, like, Branham and Wesley probably were not finding minutes in the rotation with what you've brought in at the guard position between Castle, Fox, and Harper over the last, 12 months, I guess, with Castle. So those guys probably roles are out of there. Bring in Olynyk. I think he's a skilled guy. Wembanyama can protect him. Cornette can protect him in terms of defensively. I like this move for San Antonio.
If I made you guess right now, how many players 22 years old or younger are currently on the Washington Wizards roster, what would your guess be?
All right, so I'm going to guess they have more than 15 players on standard contracts because you can do that.
I'll tell you the number. They have 17.
Okay, I was going to say, because I know that 3 players are older than that for sure. So that would get us to 14. I'm going to say 13. There's probably one player I'm not thinking of.
So they have 10 currently.
Oh, I went over a little too much.
Dylan Jones is 24, remember? Like, he's a little bit older.
Okay, there you go. Yep.
Corey Kispert's 26. And then Smart, McCollum, and Middleton, all obviously a little bit older.
Yep.
And then Justin Champagne's also 24.
Okay.
So, like, 22 though is like really young.
Yeah.
Like Jameer Watkins, who they just drafted at number 40 overall or whatever.
It's like 25.
He's probably one of the 6 oldest players on the team.
Yeah.
Right now. Like literally Middleton, McCollum, Marcus Smart, Rashawn Holmes is on the roster in theory right now. So it's 4. And then after that, Kispert, and I think Jameer Watkins is the next oldest player. It's either him or Justin Champagnie. Like that's crazy. This team is incredibly, incredibly young. And it's why I kind of think like if I'm them, I'm probably keeping Chris Middleton around.
Yeah.
Like I want the older guy around. Like I probably want to keep CJ McCollum. Like I want these older guys that can hopefully, kind of lead my guys the right way.
I agree. I won't say I will turn on the Washington offseason, but I would be a little skeptical if all of a sudden Middleton, McCollum are on this roster, especially now with Kelly Olynyk off of it. That's just a lot of guys. And like you said, like Dylan Jones is 24, 25, whatever already. It's still only going to be his second season in the league. So in terms of experience, there's not a whole lot there. So it's a very interesting roster. I like a lot of the names. I like a lot of the things they've done. I just hope they don't undervalue the veteran and the floor spacing that I think these teams tend to do at times and can really end up hampering your evaluation of those young guys. And so Middleton and McCollum, or if it's some other vets, whatever, if there's other moves out there that brings in other vets, they got to keep a few on the roster. I know they want to play all these young guys, Sam, but they got to have vets on the floor with them. They're still going to lose. Like, they're going to lose plenty of games. They can have those guys on the roster.
Okay, the next move I want to talk about is actually Chet.
Okay.
So Chet has signed his max extension, right? It is 5 years, $250 million. It's currently projected at 250. It'll be, plus or minus like $1 million or so, right? Depending on what the salary cap comes in at. I think that this is really interesting because when you and I did the Oklahoma City Thunder offseason preview, at the end of July or at the end of June, I'm sorry. What we talked about was the kind of push-pull on a Chet negotiation, right? You're probably trying to gauge like the health versus the Rose rule versus the level to which you're kind of insuring the deal in terms of like, do you give like injury designations or things like that? And I would guess that the way this negotiation kind of went was like, look, we'll just give you the full 25%. We'll give you the 5 years guaranteed. But if you can't do Rose rule money there, if you want to include Rose rule designations, like if you were to win Defensive Player of the Year next year, something that is entirely plausible for Chet Holmgren, then we need to probably get some money back in terms of guarantees, right? Maybe it's a team option on the 5th year. Maybe it's some, injury designation guarantees that we wouldn't guarantee, right? I think that was like a real lever that Oklahoma City was going to be able to play in these negotiations. So the fact that we're sitting here and we're at a place where it came with just a 25% max, it seems like, with no Rose rule designations. And who knows, like maybe there is some injury stuff because as you and I know, like when these deals get announced, it's not always exactly what it looks like, right? But the way it was announced certainly was that it's a 5-year fully guaranteed deal. So I would imagine that that's where we're at.
Yeah, it's funny that OKC, this is how it happens really fast. You've been preaching this for like 18 months, Sam, that this team was going to get expensive really fast. And we get the SGA extension. Now we get the Chet number. I assume the J-Dub number is coming not far behind. And I'm interested to see what his has in terms of some of that language and all of that. And I'm glad you brought up the Rose rule thing because while every season is going to begin with Victor as the odds-on favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year, any year he doesn't hit 65 games, Chet is obviously going to be in the running to win that award, assuming he hits 65 games. So all it takes is one injury. Again, every year Wemby is going to be the favorite, but I don't know. I'm fascinated to see a year where he plays 65 plus games. What if the Spurs are 23rd in defensive rating and the Thunder are first and Chet is obvious? Like that would be fun discussion. So I'm glad you brought that up because I think because Wemby's around, we sometimes overlook the possibility of DPOY for some of these guys. And Chet is in that very first tier after Wemby of always having the possibility of winning that award because he's probably going to be on the best defensive team in the NBA majority of the next 5 years, right? So, like, it's interesting that wasn't in there. It'll be interesting to see if there's any other language injury, but like you said, it wasn't reported initially, so this is what we'll go with. I would guess, like, some people don't love this. They think this is too much for Chet. You still want to, I know, but people are because there was a lot of questions about the offense throughout the playoffs.
Don't care. Like, watch Chet Holmgren play basketball, watch him defend, watch the way he rotates around the court, watch the way that he, like, again, you and I talk about this all the time. Maybe this is just me being out of my mind, but like centers who can shoot in space and like genuinely get guarded away from the rim are worth their weight in gold in terms of like a 5-out offense. And he's one of the few that like is versatile in ball screen coverages and can do different things in ball screen coverages on top of being an elite rim protector. Like you can play, aggressive and like blitzing coverages with him. You can switch at times with him. Like we saw them do that in the finals, like somewhat regularly against Indiana. And obviously he is a great anticipatory rim protector as well. So like, to me, this is a no-brainer, Bryce. Like this guy's like an absolute joke. on defense. And by the way, like Keith Smith has this at 5'239 in terms of what like the actual number is. Again, we'll see what it comes in at like when we get our hands on like the actual deal whenever it comes through. But yeah, like seriously, just like watch Chet Holmgren play basketball, guys. Like he came back late. He was super injured with that hip injury and missed half the season this year, obviously. He is capable of so much more offensively, I think, than what we've even gotten a chance to see so far.
Yeah, and my thing is, this is going to be like, what, $20 million less, $25 million less than what the superstar maxes are, right? Like, this is going to be $20 million less than Shea. This is going to be $20 million less than Booker. So when you talk about what Chet Holmgren provides and the level of player he is, especially defensively, getting this at 25% it's going to end up looking really good, in my opinion, just because of this is where the contracts are going. And there's still that shock value with it. The Devin Booker numbers are like when you see 150 million, and I know we're going to talk about that at some point, and then you see that that's only over 2 years and you do the quick math on that and realize what that is. It's shocking, but you know, whatever Chet's numbers end up being, 45 to 55, whatever they are across the board, that's going to be significantly lower than a lot of these superstar contracts. And the defensive value is there, unquestionably. We talk about ground coverage all the time on the defensive end. He does that. And I do think we're going to see a step with his offensive game next season. You mentioned the injuries. He's had, like, that would be the bigger thing. And that's why we talked about it is like, if you're going to question anything is like, can he stay healthy, right? Like there is a certain body type with him, that the long, the skinny, the tall. We've seen a little bit of injury stuff so far. So I would listen to that argument. I would definitely listen to it if that's your biggest hang up here. But I do think we're going to see a step from Chet offensively over the next year or two.
On the other side of that, Paolo Banchero has signed his rookie extension. He got the 5-year, $239 million max, except he did get Rose Rule language up to $287 million. And more importantly for Orlando, he has a player option in that deal as well. And that is the first time since 2021 with Luka and Trae Young where a team has actually given out the player option on a rookie extension. I am like genuinely stunned that Orlando gave him that player option with the Rose Rule language. To do both feels fairly crazy to me. I am a big Paolo Banchero defender, honestly. I think like the worst thing that has happened to like internet basketball discourse are those stupid like DPM graphs. The number, like the DPM like number itself, like I'm totally fine with. Like it's cool. I have no issue with like that actual stat itself. I think it's a useful, valuable number. It's literally like people just being able to post that for whatever the graph for whatever thing to compare players and just like use whatever narrative you want to use. That's like really fucking stupid to continue to, you know, denigrate certain players league wide that are in like shitty situations. Did it with Cade, you know, up until last year. They're doing it with Paolo right now. Like it's the dumbest thing I've seen on planet Earth. Paulo's really ridiculously good at basketball. Like the way that he is able to create advantages is special league wide. Like there are not many guys who are able to create their own shot at the level that he is capable of doing so. And it's why he has been as successful in the playoffs as he has to this point in his career. I know that they obviously haven't won, but like this year against Boston, he goes for 29, 8 and 4. Like he was, he shot 44, 44, 66. Ultimately, this is like a very simple discussion with Paolo. And he's been a part of great defenses, obviously, to this point. I wouldn't say Paolo is like a monster defender himself, but no problem being a part of great defenses, right? This just comes down to, is Paolo going to get better as a shooter, or is he going to continue to be like relatively inefficient as a mid-range shot creator and as a three-point shooter? If he gets one of those things, like if he becomes a 37% three-point shooter as opposed to a 32% three-point shooter, if he becomes like a real dynamic mid-range shot maker as opposed to a guy that like takes a lot of mid-range shots right now and generally creates them at a high level and gets clean looks, but ultimately doesn't convert them all that often, or often enough, let's go with. Paolo is going to be like, he has like a real chance to be a top like 6 or 7 guy in the league. If he really starts to shoot the ball at a high level, he has a genuine shot to be that. He also has a chance to be, something like slightly better than Julius Randle. And if you're paying him this money, you're probably not all that excited about that. If that ends up what comes to fruition with Paolo Banchero, right? But I don't know, man. Like I think I would bet on Paolo. I think I would bet on him figuring this out, because it's really just like one thing he has to figure out. Like he just has to figure out making more shots. He creates them at a high level right now, man. Like I would buy into this. I would.
Yeah, I'm with you. I find myself being a Paolo defender as well, which is kind of surprising to me. I'm with you that it is interesting he was able to get the 5-year, the Rose Rule, and the player option. I feel like if I'm Orlando, I would have liked to keep one of those things. Like, hey, if we're potentially guaranteeing you $300 million, I don't know that you need a player option on the end of that contract. Like that's plenty of money that we're offering up and committing to you. Here's one thing I will say. And I'm all about analytics and the numbers and the data, and it's expanded so much, and it truly can show the intricacies of a lot of things. One thing I don't think that the numbers can show is the value of the primary initiator and hub of your offense. And people will say,
well, they often underrate that player. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Because people will say, well, usage rate. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the mental and emotional wear and tear, the physical wear and tear, the scatter, like everything that player has to put on their plate, Sam. And not only what they're carrying night in and night out, but what it takes off everybody else's plate, right? Think how much, I'm trying to say this the right way. Where would Franz's defense be if he had to carry the same offensive load as Paolo, right? Like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he's a little bit better defensively because Paolo is doing so much offensive. This was my Jalen Brunson thing with GMAC, and I love GMAC. I can't wait to meet him in person on Friday and have dinner with you guys. But when we had the Brunson Karl Anthony Towns conversation early last season, I was like, I just value the guy that is the hub of what the offense does, because it makes because I was not that guy, Sam. So I learned real early in my career, because I had this phenomenal point guard, that my life was easier because he took all the pressure, literally and figuratively. He created my shots for me. He took all the energy getting the ball up against the press, against a trap, everything. All I had to do was stand over there and shoot the ball, and then I had plenty of energy to go play defense. And I don't think metrics can put that into numbers. And I think, I don't want to tell people how to fan. I would really encourage people to think about that. Are we valuing these true primary guys? Luka, Cade, Brunson, Giannis, down the line, Paolo, are we valuing them enough in terms of the load they're taking and how much easier they make life for everybody else on the court?
Well, and then like also the other numbers that pop up where it's like, you look at Franz when Paulo's off the court, and you look at Paolo when Franz is off the court, and like Franz's numbers are way better. It's like, well, yeah, like a lot of Franz's minutes when Paolo's off the court, he's playing against second units as the primary creator. Like that's a real percentage. I'm not going to say it's all of it. Like obviously Franz, again, like you will not find a bigger Franz defender than me. I feel like a lot of his minutes tend to come as a guy that, is the second unit creator. He was great in the games that Paolo missed as well, where he was the primary option offensively, right? And again, I think that both of these guys are going to make all NBA teams at some point. It's not a one or the other conversation. It's the fact that Orlando has both of these guys, plus Desmond Bane now, plus Jalen Suggs hopefully getting healthy, and like some depth options potentially, as long as some of these guys come through, to be able to really be a creative, fun, hopefully offensive team now that they have some spacing around with Desmond Bane. And that's the other thing too. Like, I don't think it's an accident that, you look at the advanced numbers for some of these guys that like have never had spacing early in their careers when they're younger, with like Cade Cunningham, Paolo Banchero. These guys end up having to take a lot of really difficult shots, which artificially is going to reduce what they're capable of. Here's the reality, though, with Paolo Banchero. Paolo Banchero's played 12 playoff games now. In those games, he's averaged 28 points, 8.5 rebounds, 4 assists. Yes, he's turned the ball over 4 times, but he shot 45, 42, 71 in those games. Again, I would like to see the shooting continue to improve and level up. I think that's going to ultimately be the key as to whether or not this deal is worthwhile. But I do really think it is critical that they went out and got Desmond Bane, because it's just another guy that you really have to pay attention to out there, like desperately when he's out there.
Yeah, and I think with Cade, and I know we keep referencing Cade because there's a little bit of the trajectory of things, and people love
the conversation feels similar to me right now.
It's fair because, listen, I took a lot of heat for where I had Cade in our 24, under 24, and 24 last offseason. And I had the benefit, Sam, and I know this isn't fair. I've watched every second of Cade Cunningham's career. Like, every single second. I've done multiple breakdowns, whatever. Like, I've been able to, like, break down his game in a way that I don't think probably anybody else has that's not a member of the Pistons organization. So I saw the strengths. I saw the load night in and night out he was taking, because nobody else was watching the 28 game losing streak, because what NBA fan would? Like, that was crazy. But it wasn't just the scoring efficiency that went up, Sam. All of a sudden, the assist numbers looked really good this last year for Cade. Do you think that's because Cade became a better passer, or because he had Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Tobias Harris knocking down shots all of a sudden? Why do you think Malik Beasley had the best three-point shooting season of his career last season? And he's played with some really good players, including Giannis Antetokounmpo in the last few years. And I'm not saying Cade's better than Giannis. Cade didn't all of a sudden become a better decision maker. He improved, he grew, but they put real NBA dudes, real NBA floor spacing specifically around him. And now all of a sudden people saw the playmaking because it ended with shots made. And that's why I think assists sometimes are the most flawed stat that we use when we talk about passing, because it requires somebody else to not only be in the right spot, catch the ball, but then also make the shot, Sam. And so that's where I'm fast. Now, if Paolo doesn't grow this year with some improvement around him, then we can start having real questions. But the fact of the matter is, Orlando had to make that decision now. They couldn't wait another year and do it.
Yeah, and look, like, again, like, not to harp on it, but I am a little bit surprised about the double dip of the Rose Rule plus player option. That feels pretty crazy to me. But hey, you know what? It's not going to look that crazy if he ends up shooting much better this year than we've seen in the past. We'll see if he does. The final, like, big money extension we have to talk about is Devin Booker. So Devin Booker has signed an extension. Last night this happened. It is a 2-year, $145 million deal to run through the 2029-30 season. That is so much money, Bryce. Like, that is a full, like fuck you max for Devin Booker for those 2 years, and good for him. Like, I'm all for it. I get why he's getting the money. It is what it is, right? But man, that is some hefty dollars to give to Devin Booker. And it's Devin Booker not in his late 20s. It's Devin Booker when he's going to be in his early 30s, right? Like, it kind of snuck up on us a little bit, but like, Devin Booker turns 29 in October, right? And I think that he still gets kind of clustered in with some of those younger guys league wide that are in that like 25, 26, 27-year-old age bracket when he's a little bit older than those guys. And I don't know. I'm just like, not sure why you had to do this now if you're Phoenix. Like, you had him locked in for 3 more years, and it's big money. It's 53, 57, 61 million. Like, I don't know why you felt like you had to like totally go all in with Devin Booker right now for 5 years as opposed to the 3 you already have him for.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like they've like they just played their cards out that we're going to try to win and we're going to try to win and we're going to sell out everything for the future to try to win. And Devin Booker and his representation took advantage of it and said, you just traded Kevin Durant. You're about to buy out Bradley Beal by all accounts. You can't afford to lose me or me come out and demand a trade in the same offseason as all of this stuff. And your quote unquote big three you put together all leave over a couple months time period. And so they probably went to the well at the exact right time and demanded this. And I mean, I'm not saying I agree with it, but Phoenix probably felt like, hey, we have to hitch our wagon to Devin Booker. This is who we have chosen. This is what we're going to roll with in terms of that. It is such a huge number, Sam. It is unreal what the number is, but these are where these numbers are going. And I don't know. I'm not sure how Phoenix is going to crawl out of this thing and really become a contender in the West, but this is where they find themselves. And I wouldn't have wanted to do it right now with 3 years. I would have said like, hey, you got plenty of money coming to you, but I can understand why they went to them, why Booker and his representation went to them and put the pressure on him.
Well, like to me, what this is it is a massive bet on Devin Booker in his age 32 and age 33 years, like still maintaining health, right? Like we hope that happens, but continuing to be at the level that he's at right now. And Devin's been an unbelievable scoring guard for a long time, and he continues to add to his game. I still think he's best off the ball as opposed to like being the primary guy, which he often got pigeonholed into being this year. And I know he averaged like 7 assists per game each of the last 2 years. And, you know, he has really drastically improved as a playmaker and can really make those reads at a pretty solid level now. I do think that I prefer him like next to a real point guard. If you can find one, like I think it's the best way to weaponize his scoring efficiency as much as anything, because the big thing that happened with him this year is like, we just saw the scoring efficiency drop a little bit more. Right. And, you know, he shot 32% from three this year and got to the line just like slightly less often this year as compared to what he had the previous 2 years. And, you know, like, again, like I just don't know why you felt like you had to do this now coming off of this season. It's not a statement that Devin Booker is not like this, you know, top 15, top 20 player in the league. He absolutely is. And, you know, this year he was probably more like a top 20 player in the league, you know, top 25, whatever you want to say. The year before he was probably a top like 11 player in the league. Right. So it is like he's been consistently at that top 25 level. Really, I would argue now for like 6 years, probably. So like he's been a pretty good bet to get there. And he's typically a pretty good bet to play at least 65 to 68 games per season. So like he stays fairly healthy as well. But it just feels like an unnecessary extension given that you still had 3 years to do it. Like, it's not like you needed to do this now. And it's not like Devin's number is getting higher. Like you're not getting a lower number by agreeing to this contract right now.
The other thing I thought of is if this season goes south, like if this is a disaster again for the Suns for whatever reason, and you decided that you needed to move off of him next summer, I would assume he'd have a pretty decent market with those 2 years, even though they're at pretty good numbers.
I think he would too.
I don't think so now, right? Like now, even next off season, he's on the books for 4 years, and that would be what, like 250 or something with that contract would be left. That's not like, I don't think you're getting great trade value. I'm not saying Booker's going for nothing, but I think you're going to get significantly less than if he was like, hey, we realize we're gonna have to pay him, but we got him for 2 years. I think a team could talk into 2 years of Devin Booker in age 30, age 31 season, whatever that would be at those numbers. Adding these $70 million years on the end of that, I think made this like you continue to shrink your outs if you're the Suns, and doing this deal now just shrunk it even more, because this is your last real move is trading Devin Booker, other than just continuing to try to push it forward, which I don't think is going to work. So I'm with you. Like, great for Devin, like awesome, go get your money. But Phoenix continues to make decisions I don't necessarily love.
Well, I think that what this is that they're seeing Devin as the guy that they're going to build around. Like he's going to be
100%.
like the fulcrum
Yeah.
And they'll like, make everything else work around him, like with Kaman and with Mark Williams, hopefully, and with, all the other guys that they've drafted recently, like Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro. And then hopefully they can go out and they can find some more interesting younger players. Maybe Jalen Green ends up being something, right? Like I'm skeptical of that, but I'm skeptical of the fit between Jalen Green and Devin Booker, obviously, but like, I don't mind the idea of him being the fulcrum point of your organization and like continuing to say, we are building around Devin Booker. That is our guy. I'm just not sure he's going to be worth a 35% max when he's 32 and 33. He might be more like, if he's still worth $50 million when he's 33 and 32, it's a massive win for Devin Booker. It's a massive win for the Phoenix Suns. Like everyone should be very happy. But like, if you're going to be paying him like $70 million in those 2 years, right? Like that's still $20 million potentially underwater. Even if he's a $50 million a year player at that point and is worth like a 25% max contract, 30% max contract, equivalency or whatever it would be. It's just a big dollar figure for me for a guy that might end up being, when he's 32, 33, more of like a top 40 player in the league as opposed to a, top 25 player in the league like he is now, with potential to be a top 10 player in any given season, I think for the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, it's a huge bet. It is. They've continued to make these huge bets. They haven't paid off great so far. We'll see if this one does.
Last deal that we have to talk about, Ryan Rollins. We talked about him in the end of the last show, saying that, Milwaukee would be smart to keep him, and that there are a lot of teams that should really be chasing Ryan Rollins, etc. And lo and behold, Milwaukee Bucks, literally minutes after we stopped recording, Ryan Rollins, 3-year, $12 million deal, player option in year 3, all of it guaranteed to Ryan Rollins. I think this is a great deal for Rollins. I think it's a great deal for the Bucks. Like, I think Rollins was actually really good last year. After Damian Lillard went out, I thought he was really active defensively, obviously made shots, has a little bit more juice on the ball than what you expect. Yeah, I am generally in on the Ryan Rollins experience as like a interesting role player, and at $4 million for the next couple of years, that has a chance to be a bargain, I think.
Yep, I'm in on this move. We talked about it. We thought they would be smart to bring him back. We were kind of wondering maybe it was an order of operations thing. That's always important this time of year, to steal the phrase from our good friend Keith Smith. So I love it. I think it's a great deal for Milwaukee, to be quite honest. And listen, Rollins was good. Like, I feel like we continue to talk about him in a very positive light, which is fair, but it is a limited sample size, right, Sammy? He started totally. 19 games. He played a total, what was his total? 800 minutes last year. So it's not enough of a sample size to be like, oh, he should get more money than this. He just locked in $12 million. Like, that's good for a guy that was drafted where he was drafted. That's real money. That is, maybe it's not generational wealth. You could turn it probably into, but that's real. It can be.
Given where Ryan Rollins was like a couple years ago. It's a good spot for Ryan Rollins. Like, Ryan Rollins suffered a Jones fracture when he was with the Warriors in his right foot. He dealt with that like petty larceny charge where he was like shoplifting items from a Target in 2024. Like, for Ryan Rollins to bounce back like within a year or so and prove himself as a like real genuine rotation player in the NBA, and like decide, no, like I got to be, frankly, like better about the way I'm operating. I have an immense amount of respect for it. If he had done something more serious than like petty larceny, like I would think differently, but like it was, he stole some household items from a Target. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is.
I will say this, like, it's a real opportunity for him as well, right? Like, he's gonna get to play. And so it's not just about this 3-year, $12 million deal or whatever. It's about playing really well for 2 years, right? And then being so good that you can decline the player option on the 3rd year and go get a big number in unrestricted free agency. So it's real money. It's life-changing money, along with like truly an opportunity to go play real minutes. You're still going to be playing with Giannis, is what it seems like. So eyes are going to be on you. And I love it. I think it's a smart move by the Bucks.
Before we get to Summer League, we're just going to like talk about some of the players we want to see most at Summer League because it starts in 2 hours or whatever from the time we're recording. I just want to bring up this thing where the College Sports Commission on like NIL or whatever has, issued additional guidance to schools about the definition of a valid business purpose and the importance of sharing information about like third-party NIL deals. And basically like what this commission is saying here is that like collectives like are no longer like actually like functional is what it sounds like to me. Like the way that collectives have operated like just doesn't really work in the way that we expected it to work previously, right? So they're saying that basically for NIL deals to be approved, there has to be like a business purpose for providing payments to athletes rather than providing like, or it has to be that they're providing goods and services to the general public, like for profit. No, it's providing payments or benefits to athletes or institutions. Like there has to be like a business purpose for it, as opposed to it just being like they're providing goods and services to the general public for profit, and thus they are worth this money basically for the university. Like that does not satisfy the valid business purpose requirement anymore. Like, guys, the cat's out of the bag. Like, I'm just not really sure what we're doing with this stuff anymore. If you want to try and like get a handle back on it, okay, cool. The way you've done this is not really going to do that. At the end of the day, we're just going to go back to the Wild West is kind of what my reaction is. Like these kids are just going to get paid under the table. Like we're going to have duffel bags like under, bleachers again. We're going to have like duffel bags left under kitchen tables again. Like, it's completely ridiculous. This entire thing remains like such a farce to me. Like as soon as I saw this statement from the College Sports Commission, I was just like, the way this is going to go is, there's going to be like probably some injunction filed by the end of the day, basically. And the reason that this the reason this all is happening is that there's now this like Deloitte backed, set of folks that is looking at approving like every NIL deal in college basketball right now. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, guys, how are you going to enforce this is my immediate question. What are you going to look into all of your student athletes' finances? Like think about like if, Bryce, if your employer like at the school, like asked to see your finances in order to, potentially like rule you as ineligible to teach, like completely fucking ridiculous. Like no court of law, I feel like is going to uphold that. So this entire thing remains just like so farcical to me in the way that the NCAA is going about it. I just like can't even like maybe it'll work and maybe it'll get to a certain point where it's like, these NIL deals get stopped up for a year. Maybe it will just like finish it. But again, like the point I always bring up here is just, okay, the way you have it structured right now, like Big East schools are going to be able to spend way more on college basketball rosters than anybody else. What, you think the SEC is just not going to compete for the highest level talent anymore?
Yeah.
You think that's realistic?
I mean, I just, when they started this, I was telling someone yesterday, I think the thing that really ended up being not great was they opened up the portal and this NIL right around the same time. And it just turned into like legit free agency every year. I was talking to someone, I was like, I feel like it's harder to build a college basketball roster right now than an NBA roster because every one of your players is a free agent every single year. And you have to re-recruit them
Bryce,
every year.
Like we think about it from the high major level often when we talk about it.
Oh no, the low major
on this show.
Yeah.
The low major level is just fucking chaos. Like
yes.
You talk to low major coaches, mid major coaches, they're just losing rosters every year. Every single year. Like they have to replace, if not half of their roster, potentially a full roster, especially if you're good. It's completely bonkers right now.
Yep. And here's what I want to tell people is like, what did you think was going to happen? I mean, I'm fine with guys getting their money, girls getting their money, in all sports across the board. But people look surprised all of a sudden that this is what it's turned into. And I'm like, you didn't? Like, this is major money. You knew people were going to back. Like, some of the numbers are more than what I thought, to be honest with you, Sam. But this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. And then now 3 years in, or how many ever years into it we are, you're going to try to, who is going to evaluate every single NIL deal that is made? Do people realize how many, we only talk college basketball. College football has hundreds of players or whatever on their team. You're going to look through every single one, evaluate every single one. I don't know what the answer is, but trying to rein it in right now seems like quite the task to take on.
And I get why they're trying to do it. I just don't see it as in any way, shape, or form workable. Yeah. Based on the way that they're going about it. To try and just lock all this in immediately just feels completely absurd. Okay. Summer League starts in 2 hours here in Vegas. We've seen some Summer League games, in California, in Utah already. Or is it just California? Was there even Utah? I can't remember. I thought there was, right?
Yeah. The California Classic in Salt Lake. Yep, both.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I remembered Utah as well.
We talked about AJ Mitchell.
Games. Yeah, I was going to say, I just watch the games. I don't even recognize where they are half the time.
Oh, no.
So I'm excited to see, we will see Cooper Flagg and Bronny James tonight, which will be interesting on some level. Any player that you're really interested in watching? Any team that you're interested in watching?
Well, I will say this. I tweeted it out. No Ceilings, good friends over there. Shout out Maxwell Baumbach. Said who are you most excited to see tonight? And I tweeted out Deron Holmes II. And people know I was super high on Deron going into that draft. We've referenced this a couple times. We were literally sitting right next to each other when he tore his Achilles about 1 year ago today.
That sucked.
That was bad. And I'm excited for him. He missed all of his rookie year, rehabbing all of that. I'm excited to watch him play tonight just because he was a guy that I was super high on in that class. And now he's, making his return tonight. They play the Bucks. Actually, I think I'll be able to watch most of that Lakers Mavs game and then I may leave a little bit early to go catch that or whatever. We'll get VJ. Is Dylan playing? Have we got that yet? I saw he was battling something, Dylan Harper. So obviously those as well.
If he's battling anything, they're not playing him.
Yeah.
It's Summer League.
And then I think it was the Pacers roster that had all of those floor spacers. I tweeted that one out as well. I got to pull it up because there's I left Stephen Ashworth off the tweet that I sent out, but it was just so Ashworth, Buddy Boeheim, Furphy, Talon Peter, Kisei Tamanaga. I'm just these are floor spacers galore. Furphy may not deserve to be in that group, but I'm just they're going to shoot 53s in these Summer League games with those guys. I love it.
I think I'm interested to see Brooklyn, if only because 5 first-round picks, right? A lot of ball handling guys for 5 first-round picks. It might actually look okay at Summer League, just given the way those games kind of operate. Obviously I want to see Cooper. I just love watching Cooper play basketball. Totally special dude, and to see him is going to be really, really fun again. Anybody else? If I'm looking off the radar, I'll bring up Taron Armstrong, right? I am interested to see Taron at Summer League, given that Golden State's probably going to give him a bit of a free chain to kind of play point and really go. But I think the answer for me is Reed Shepherd.
Sure.
Reed was freaking awesome here last year. I'm betting that Reed comes out and just decides I am going to go scorched earth this year. I am going to come out in the first game and go 30-10, because if you watched Reed's Summer League or Reed's G League games, they were a joke. He would obliterate people. He had a 40-10 game at one point in the G League. And like, that's the closest equivalency to this level of competition. Like Reed's going to go in and I think just like completely set the world on fire when he plays in his game. And I think it's going to remind people, you know, what we get so excited about with Reed and why he is such an interesting player here.
And for those wondering, we won't get to him until Friday night. He plays. I will say the first game today, Sam, I wasn't in a big hurry. But I may try to make sure I'm at the arena at least for some of that. We get Pelicans Wolves, so we get Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears right off the bat with Misi, and then we get I assume Dillingham's going to be playing Terrence Shannon Jr. Like that's not a bad game to kick off Summer League with those two squads.
Get my guy Leonard. We get like you said, Terrence. I'm guessing Berenger will play there too as well.
Yep.
Berenger against Derek Queen actually could be like really fun, I think.
I don't know if my wife just realized, but she just made her first appearance on any podcast I've ever recorded. She's back,
and there she is again.
So I've recorded probably 300 podcasts, probably more. Got to be more than that. First time she's ever, 500. We just called it an even 1,000. Royce makes appearances consistently because I record in his room all the time. Randy's first appearance on the podcast. So
there we go. I would say that I'm glad you brought that up. I might actually try to hustle over there now. I was planning on like maybe going to sleep after this because again, my body is just like broken right now from the jet lag, but we'll see. Maybe I might just like hustle over there and get there on time to see, really just to see my guy Lenny. That's the key. We got to go see Leonard Miller as much as anything. Okay. Bryce, that's what we got. Tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah. At Motor City Hoops on Twitter, Blue Sky, Substack, Pistons Pulse podcast, Game Theory podcast here with Sam Vecenie. I was excited that we had a few internet things throughout, but I was a little nervous. Went better than I thought. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Obviously the look was a little bit different, but we got you an episode here out in Vegas.
Yeah, and I'll, be here for another week, so I'll be here again at some point recording. I am here until next Wednesday, realistically. By the time that I land back in Australia, it'll be Wednesday, US. So I'm here for another 6 days, and, my body will eventually adjust, and I'm like not going out while I'm here. So, hopefully I'll like feel better and have a little bit more energy for the next show that we do. That would be great. But we'll probably record over the weekend, I would guess, after we see some of these teams play Summer League. Like we'll talk about Cooper. We'll talk about, Reed obviously will play on Friday night, like you mentioned. No Dylan. I think no VJ too, it seems like, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I had missed that in terms of as I was traveling and stuff. So that's
I mean, I'm just like kind of guessing on that, like given that I think he missed a few of those games here, kind of down the run here. So he's out Thursday at least for Summer League. So he's not done for the Summer League entirety. And then Dylan is also not playing on Thursday. So, a little bit of a bummer start, but we'll get a lot of teams, we'll get a lot of guys, and I'm excited to kind of break them down with you. We'll be back over the weekend and we'll talk through all of this. That's about all we got. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
I already did that. You got to close
it out. You
already
did that? Yeah, I'm so tired, Bryce. Okay. Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.